Hello and welcome to Let's Talk SEO. So the end of 2024 was a crazy time for SEO, not only because of the updates, which we know that the core update and then subsequently right after that the spam update rolled out towards the tail end of up to like the tail end of December. The problem was that it hit many websites, especially the ones that I manage at a time when we're supposed to be doing the most business, um, and that's in e-commerce stores and also some services that I manage. So it took some time for me to gather the data, figure out exactly what Google was doing with the spam update and also the core update. There's a reason why, and I've talked about this before, why Google sort of merges the spam update and the core update and kind of clumps them together, so to speak. So usually you'll have two updates that run alongside each other. In the past, it would be, the HCU and the core update. Now the HCU is part of the core update. HCU is, by the way, for those who don't know, the helpful content update. Now, if there's a core update, there's a good chance that the helpful content update is running alongside it or within it. So in this video, I'm going to go through and talk about the spam update in particular, what I'm seeing from the spam update, what the data shows. This is not a video for just general SEO. This is a video for people who want to dive deep and understand what's going on with the algorithm. So we're going to nerd out a little bit on this. I'm going to try and keep it as simple as possible so that everyone can understand this video. But this video is not for you if you're looking for some quick tips or some quick ways to rank. This is for someone who is trying to understand what's wrong with the algorithm, what's wrong in terms of like why they're not ranking after the algorithm update, and potentially figure out what they can do to start re-ranking or ranking again. So the spam update is always interesting because it's outside of Google's broad core update, and it targets mainly sites that are violating Google's spam policies. So when Google determines that there are loopholes that people like me, SEOs, are exploiting through ranked sites, it kind of catches up with that in the core update. So when there's a core update, it's kind of patching up these holes, but then it pushes out a separate update for spam that tackles issues where websites are, using spammy tactics, let's just say, to rank. For instance, the December 2022 link spam update impacted sites that were mainly engaged in buying guest posts. So those sites were hit pretty hard, and I had a few sites that were hit pretty hard. But by and large, a lot of the sites recovered. So here's an example of what we saw during the Google 2022 link spam update. And you can see that this site in question, I put the graph up here from Ahrefs, the site dropped heavily based on SpamBrain mainly neutralizing these unnatural links. Now, back then, they were not telling us how they identify these unnatural links. Today, I know how they're identifying unnatural links. So I kind of avoid that. Most SEOs still don't know that. And the reason why I don't disclose potentially how Google is finding these unnatural links is because then I lose my competitive edge. But it's very easy for Google to determine now if a website is engaged in unnatural link building. So I'll talk more about link spam later on in this video. But for now, it suffices to say the December 2024 spam update caused a great deal of volatility. So a lot of websites that were primarily ranking because they were engaged in heavy link building, but not necessarily on-site work, probably have been hit the hardest. Now, I'll go into why some of my clients were hit. But for now, this was what the background is that if all you were doing were backlinks on your site with spammy content, there's a good chance that you would be hit. Okay. And you already know that you're hit because the update is finished rolling out. So let's start with if your website has been hit. So I will start with asking you to go back and review Google's spam policies. Now that might sound monotonous and boring, but those policies are there because either Google has found a way to determine if you're engaging in spam, or if not already, it will find a way to figure out whether you're violating those policies, whether your websites are violating those policies. So based on that and based on what I'm seeing, skill content abuse and doorway pages and other types of content-related spam have been the focus of Google's update, the spam update. And a lot of the sites that were buying sketchy links combined with spammy content and doorway pages were probably hit the hardest. And the odds of those sites recovering, because it's an algorithmic penalty compared to a manual penalty, are a lot lower. So you're gonna have to work a lot harder and for a lot longer to re-rank those sites. But just making changes overnight to your site or disavowing all of those links that you created is not gonna fix the issue, at least not right away. It's gonna be a consistent, long-term effort because you've got to appear to Google and you're making an effort over time to improve the quality of your site. So if you do everything overnight, it's just not going to matter. So recovery from the spam updates. So the first spam updates are not manual actions. So that's important to keep in mind. They're algorithmic updates that target sites that are violating Google's spam policies. For sites impacted by spam updates, Google have explained that you can see improvements over time if you stop spamming and let the Google system see those improvements over a series of months, maybe more. For me, my experience has been at least a year. I've seen sites recover to the extent to where they were before being hit by the update. So it's possible. I've worked on sites where it took me around 7 to 8 months to recover those sites from the spam update. But if I see that a site has been hit really, really hard, I know that recovering from that is not going to be possible because all of the content on the site will have to be redone. The backlinks will have to be disavowed, which is not just disavow that's submitting a disavow file, but we'll have to go in and undo those backlinks if possible. And also build high quality links for the links that we cannot remove. So it's a long process. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. And a lot of the stuff that's done is behind the scenes. So clients don't really see much happening because all of this is going on behind the scenes. And so it's regard for a lot of people that approach me who want to recover from the spam update to understand that it's on-site work, but there's also a lot of off-site work. So you're not going to get like a report with, 20 things that we did this month. You're going to get a report more like one thing we did this month because that one thing is super time consuming. So also link spam updates are on a different front. So Google's spam brain is essentially neutralizing links. So unlike what people think, if your website is propped up by a bunch of links, when Google neutralizes those links, it's like taking the foundation out of the building. So if you remove the foundation from a building, the building collapses. That's what Google is doing. So it's not coming in and hitting you like a core update would hit, but it's hitting you more it's more of an indirect hit. So it does not mean that the quality of your site was found to be spammy. It was more like the links to your site was found to be spammy. So there are two different operations here. A, the content, and B, the links. So if spammy links were helping a site and the site was impacted by a link spam update, then the links have been neutralized. So there's a way to recover other than to earn strong links over time. But again, the December 2024 spam update was not a link spam update per se. Links were impacted. So that's just something to keep in mind. So reversals from recent broad core updates, and I've seen some reversals, but none of my sites had reversed. So these reversals have been, for some reason, it's been other sites that have reversed. So there are a few observations I've made. So I wanted to quickly cover some interesting cases where there were recoveries. So there are several examples of sites surging with the November and then the December core updates. And then they were again hit by the December spam update. And then they went back down again. So there was this point where they recovered recovered during the core updates and they were hit again by the spam update. But then apart from these two websites that I saw, there were a bunch of others, but I just can't put a bunch of graphs over here. But then I also saw that the ones that recovered during the November and the December spam core update were not hit by the spam update later on. So those websites are now even better off than they were uh, before the November core update. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you see that your site kind of recovered and went back down, that you have a problem with your links. That's just anecdotal evidence right now, but that you might want to take a look at your links. The other thing with the spam update is Google is kind of playing cat and mouse. So you might think that a spam update it's all spam sites, but literally some spam sites are ranking. So it's interesting to note that some I saw a bunch of spam sites that were doing very well, and it was not only me, but it was even like Googlers like Glenn Gabe who said, you posted a bunch of graphs and stuff showing, spammy sites that were doing very well after the core update. After the core update, after the spam update, these pages were not hit. The first case we have here of a site being hit. This is not my site. I'm not associated with them. I'm not going to give out the URL out of respect for the site owner, but we do monitor a bunch of sites on Ahrefs and SEMrush, and I use other monitoring tools. Especially when I identify a spam site, I kind of monitor it just to track how it's doing over time. So the first one is a site that uses a great deal of doorway pages. Now, this specific site is like you will see a listing for, let's just say, get six-pack apps. So they will rank for six-pack apps. And when you click on the link, it takes you to a page that's about casinos. So it redirects you to a casino site, or it also redirects you to a payday loan site. So it's basically ranking a bunch of doorway pages, and there are doorways to these spammy services. So we were tracking this site, and previously they were doing very well. Interestingly, these pages that barely had any content on them, but they were ranking. So they were buying a lot of links. So we saw maybe 400 or 500 links coming every day to these sites. So they had a combination of doorway pages, thin content, and spammy links. So that's a recipe for traditionally being hit by Google's update, which they were not. So the site dropped in search visibility heavily during the December spam update when it rolled out, although it still does not rank for many queries, and a number of URLs impacted were ranking in AI overviews before the spam update and still rank in AI overviews. So since this is an algorithm adjustment, that's definitely possible. So the site was hit by the spam update, but this was blatantly spam, and you would imagine that this site wouldn't even rank to begin with, but because there was a previous spam update, so the previous spam update was back in June of 2024, then there was one prior to that on March of 2024. Neither of these spam updates hit this website. So it wasn't until December that this website was hit. Now, after the website was hit, it's not like they were hit so hard that they lost all that traffic. But they did lose, 25%, 30% maybe of their traffic, and then there was some recovery. This is an old screenshot. Now you can see for example, here's a site query showing showing doorways for a specific area, and you can see it's super spammy. Then there was the scale content abuse. So I've warned people about spamming with PAAs, or people also ask, mining and veering out of your lane. So if you're just creating a site to answer PAAs to get a bunch of traffic, that's not the right way if you want a sustainable business model. So the next example here is a website that did exactly that. There were many examples of content that contain so much information about the topic, 25 posts, like 25 things you can do with your car, and mainly just answering questions there will be a question like, how can I fix my car's audio player? And it will answer all the questions, all the content was just answering questions, and then including it would just be, the question would be the H1, and the answer would be, the paragraph, and then there will be another one, another one. So in addition, all of the authors were anonymous, so it was just pages published en masse. My assumption is that they had some automated system running that pulled PAAs from Google, and they had AI answer those questions and automatically post them to the website. That's because they were doing several hundred pages a day, So So what happened was when the spam update rolled out, you can see that, the website was hit pretty hard. So they lost a lot of traffic and the performance kind of went down. One of the reasons, apart from them answering, like people also ask questions, is that they were not in a specific niche. So they were answering just about every question under the sun. It would be holiday related, automobiles related, home related, medical answers. So they were answering everything, and they did pretty well. Like for over a year, they did pretty well. So since the website started, so from a spam update standpoint, there were several issues with the site, including like the content wasn't great quality, it was low quality content. The website was structured, and here's a image of how it was structured. So you kept the structuring, wasn't great. Even despite all of that, these guys were ranking. So until the spam update. So Google obviously found the hole, that they were passing through and patched that hole. Then there was scaling. So mainly what this means is site that just scales exponentially overnight. So this site in question has around 5 million URLs. I remember crawling this site or attempting to crawl this site. It took me 3 days just to get through 20% of its URLs on Screaming Frog. So this was, and I just abandoned the project because it took too long. I didn't want to have my computer on for a week just to crawl the site. But interestingly, they were publishing several hundred pages a day. They got hit by what I think is scale content abuse. So you can see them rising in rankings, sustaining those rankings for a while, and then, the core update hits them. The interesting part here is that parts of the site that got the most visitors, so they were getting millions of visitors on some parts of the site, those parts of the site actually improved after the spam update. And we saw, there's the screenshots here for you guys to see. So, which stands to reason that even though your content is spammy and you're abusing PAAs, if it's getting traffic from Google, you're not going to be hit by the spam update. At least that's what this tells us. And the ones that were hit were mainly ones that were not getting a lot of traffic. So, a lot of the ones that got fewer clicks compared to other parts of the site were the ones that were hardest hit. They were getting a lot of impressions, low clicks. So Google probably thought these are low CTR pages and just nailed those. So it stands to reason that CTR or click-through rates have definitely played a role in Google figuring out, the spamminess of content on the website. Also, we tested the probability of their content being AI. The vast majority of it is AI. We ran it through Perplexity AI, and it showed us 100% AI content. So that's another case of, I would say, the scaled content abuse. Then we found more scaled content abuse, and I'll show you. So it follows, this website is another website, by the way. It follows the same trajectory of, rising and then declining. You can see their keywords just crash after a while, but it's more that the more pages that were not getting traffic, that were getting fewer clicks compared to the other parts of the site that were the hardest hit. So it stands to reason that Google is looking at CTR, and now probably with more testing we'll know whether CTR is now something that we should be focusing on. If you're being negatively impacted by the December spam update and you're confused like where to start and what to do, what the policies are, whatever, the best thing to do is to take stock of your site, run an audit, do a Screaming Frog audit of the site, figure out what's going on, what's happening where on your site. And you would know if you're engaging in spammy content. You would know if you're engaging in spammy links. And if it's any of those cases, then you would want to take the appropriate measures. If you've hired an SEO company and they've been doing it on the back end, then, well, you would have to have a word with your SEO company and make sure that they undo what they've done to your site. And if all else fails, you can always contact me, and I do SEO for a living, cloudseo.com. Let me know in the comments below if you were hit by the spam update, and if your website has followed a similar trajectory. Like, subscribe as always, leave a comment below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Happy ranking!